Sex, culture, and the collapse of civilizations. I'm going to be revisiting JD Unwin's warning. I'm Jay Fallon. This is the Slippery Slope podcast.
Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
A while back, I released an episode digging into the work of JD Unwin. He's the anthropologist who studied 86 civilizations and found the same pattern every time. When sexual morality collapses, the civilization collapses with it. That episode sparked a bit of discussion, and honestly, the more I've continued looking into Unwin and the scholars who followed him, the more convinced I am that his warnings weren't just academic observations. They're almost verging on prophecy. So today, I want to revisit that earlier episode, sharpen the argument, and expand on the research with insights from Mary Eberstadt, Kirk Dunstan, Pastor Jack Hibbs, and Scripture itself, because everything Unwin documented nearly a century ago is unfolding right in front of us. Unwin studied 86 civilizations across history, different eras, religions, and geographies, and found the same outcome every time. His conclusion: civilizations rise when sexual restraint is strong. They peak when monogamy and stable families dominate, and they decline when sexual morality loosens. And within 3 generations of a sexual revolution, the civilization collapses or is conquered. He called it a monotonous repetition. And he published this in 1934, decades before our own sexual revolution. So from the late 1960s onwards, thank you, hippies, Western culture embraced sexual liberation as progress. But according to Unwin's research, this wasn't progress. It was the beginning of civilizational decay. Unwin said the first generation after sexual liberation still looks stable. The second generation begins to show cracks. The third generation experiences rapid collapse. We are entering that third generation right now. Mary Eberstadt's book Primal Screams adds another layer to Unwin's findings. She argues that the sexual revolution didn't just change behavior, it destroyed the family, and with it, the foundation of identity. Her research shows sexual liberation leads to family collapse. Family collapse leads to identity collapse, and identity collapse leads to social chaos. She links the rise of mass killings, skyrocketing depression, extreme identity groups, tribalism, political fragmentation to the loss of the extended family structure that once gave people belonging and purpose. Today's identity politics isn't a political movement, it's a primal scream from people who no longer know who they are. So, everything that Unwin and Eberstadt describe aligns with what Scripture has been saying for thousands of years. I was listening to some preaching by Pastor Jack Hibbs, and he put it bluntly, saying that pornography and sexual immorality are more spiritual than physical. He points out something remarkable. Scripture never says stealing, while stealing is a sin, but Scripture never says that stealing is a sin against your own soul. It never says murder is a sin against your own soul, and it never says cursing is a sin against your own soul. They are sins. You should not do them. But it doesn't say that these things are a sin against your own soul. But sexual immorality, that's different. It reaches into the spiritual realm. It creates bonds, wounds, and consequences that go far deeper than physical actions. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 6:18, "Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body." Sexual sin is unique. It damages the very core of a person, their identity, their soul, their spiritual integrity. And when sexual immorality becomes normalized across an entire culture, the spiritual damage becomes civilizational. This is the layer Unwin couldn't measure, but scripture reveals. Unwin described the final stage of a collapsing civilization as zoistic, a culture that rejects religion, rejects restraint, rejects responsibility, becomes self-absorbed, becomes obsessed with pleasure, loses interest in the future, stops caring about anything beyond the self. And this is exactly where we are today. And scripture describes the same thing with absolute accuracy. Paul writes in 2 Timothy 3:2, "For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, and unholy." Unwin's zoistic culture and Paul's prophetic warning are parallel descriptions of the same phenomenon. A generation consumed with itself, obsessed with pleasure, rejecting authority, rejecting truth, and rejecting God. Today's generation isn't even atheist. Atheist requires some thought. Today's generation is simply non-religious by default. They're too uninterested in God, uninterested in truth, uninterested in anything beyond their own feelings. This is the final stage before collapse. The writer Kirk Durston makes a powerful point. God's moral laws aren't arbitrary rules meant to restrict us. They are operating instructions for human flourishing. Durston writes, God's moral laws pertaining to sexuality, although they may restrain us from some immediate pleasure, protect us from enormous long-term suffering while maximizing our long-term flourishing. Unwin's research, completely secular, confirms this. Eberstadt's research confirms this. Scripture confirms this, and history confirms this. When a society abandons God's design for sexuality, it destroys itself. King Solomon said, "There is nothing new under the sun." Civilizations have risen and fallen for the same reasons for thousands of years. We are not special and we are not exempt. We are not immune. We are simply repeating the same pattern Unwin documented in 86 cultures before us. And unless something radically changes, and when I say that, I mean, unless our nation cries out to God, we will meet the same fate. But that's just my opinion. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to the Slippery Slope podcast.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna stop me now. No more demons to be done. Nothing's gonna just focus on the goal. Nothing's gonna stop me now. Nothing's gonna hold me down. Got my eye on the prize. Got my eye on the prize. stop